Hello, everybody. All right, so now we got that out of the way. All right, well, we know Metal's here. Metal's my co-host tonight. And hey, Rick, thanks for coming in. If you haven't already, of course, please like and share the stream. See if we can get some more people in here to engage. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. So, Metal, how's your week been?
Um, Uneventful, I guess.
Yeah. Um, would you like to plug anything before we get into things? Would you like to
Oh,
plug anything or put
sure.
any links up or anything like that?
So the most eventful thing to happen to me this week is I have no idea how long this has been up, but apparently the print-on-demand version of Realms and Relics #1 has finally gone live sometime in the last 2 weeks, and I just noticed. So if people want to buy a physical copy of Realms and Relics #1, which is illustrated and written by me, they can do so at that link right there.
All right, so there's a link, and of course, I shared some links as well last night. I was covering the ICS article last night, and one of our friends was featured in that article last night. I don't know if you guys saw that. Um, Tim Olson and Timothy and Melvin were featured as part of the ICS this week. So I covered that last night. So shared that and a couple other links. But if you guys want to get this Realms and Relics book that Metal had a hand in terms of the illustrations of that, there's the link. Feel free to
Oh,
go
more than a
check that.
hand. It's entirely done by me. It's only my
Oh,
book, no one else.
okay. I'm sorry. My bad. My bad. Sorry about that. Um, so the Metals project there, Realms and Relics. Go check that out. And now what we're going to do is get into the material here. As I always said, feel free to Feel free to if anything here that we talk about tonight grabs your attention. Feel free to comment and or ask questions. So we're going to get right into the material here as soon as I get it set up. Tonight, of course, we're going to be looking back to December 1939, books that went on sale from what would eventually become known as Harvey Comics, or books that were bought up by Harvey in 1941. The two books in question, of course, will be Speed Comics Volume 1, Issue 5. We'll be going over the Shock Gibson feature in that, 22 pages, double feature length, as they like to call it. And then we'll be reading over the Champ story from Champion Comics, Volume 1, Issue 4, Worth Carnett. So, Speed Comics at the time was published by Book Bookwood or Brookwood Publications, and Champion Comics was published by Worth Carnahan. So, like down to that, the Harvey, of course, Speed Comics still in the Harvey section. Let's see. Issue 5, of course, is where we're at. So we're going to focus in on the Shock Gibson. Big double length feature from Shock Gibson. And of course, if you haven't already, as I said, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that would be. I think we've read one of these stories before.
Yes, we have covered. I think we've when I was on here specifically, I have been part of both a Speed and a Champ comic before.
Yeah, well, that would have been last time too. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Specifically, we were dealing with Shock Gibson. I remember that.
yeah. All right. So let's see. Shock Gibson, the human dynamo. Charles Gibson was at work in his laboratory when it was struck by lightning. Some chemical and electrical reaction caused a mysterious change. Instead of killing the youth, it made him all powerful, endowed with almost unbelievable strength and energy. The youth dedicated his powers for the service of humanity. He adapted a new costume and name, Shock Gibson, vowing to work in the interest of fair play. Now, of course, there are elements here that we would see, well, around this time or late, like the costume design looks similar to the Golden Age Flash there. You notice that, Metal?
Yeah.
And then, of course, later on, a hero who was known for talking about being for fair play was the original Mr. Terrific, Terry Sloan, who we'd see later on. So let's continue on with the feature
Well, I
here.
think the more important part is that there's a dinosaur there. It's really hard to overlook the fact that there's a dinosaur right in the image.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of like sci-fi elements that they put into these stories. So maybe we won't be worrying too much about the more usual plot line here, but let's get into this and see how things play out here. Colonel Ross, an aerial explorer, starts for the South American jungles. All right. This will be my last and greatest trip. Come back safely, dear. Goodbye, Daddy. But over the dense Amazon jungle, the explorer's plane falls out of control. So this looks like it's going to be like maybe a jungle adventure with some prehistoric elements.
Yes.
Right? I think one of the things that we were really getting in on was kind of the scientific reasoning of the time, because I think the one had it where I don't know if it was a Shock Gibson story, but he, something about, doing something weird with water and ice.
Possibly. I do know around this time is when we started taking many trips down to the Amazon to start heavily cataloging animals. And we realized that the diversity of species down in the Amazon was like crazy compared to anywhere else on the planet. So if you were going to see anywhere that might potentially have dinosaurs there, you would expect it to be the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah. You're talking about from a historical point of view, right?
Yeah, like if you were just, you didn't know that there's no way dinosaurs could be around. If you thought there was anywhere on the planet it could be at the time, the Amazon rainforest would be the place.
All right, that's interesting. So Colonel Ross bails out. I'll get down safely. Hope the natives are friendly. Thus, Colonel Ross disappeared from the eyes of the world. His mysterious fate was discussed everywhere. At first, he was thought to be dead. Then came whispered messages from the jungle that he still lived, but as a captive of a savage tribe. His little daughter makes an appeal for help. Won't somebody please find my daddy? I know he's alive. At least I'm getting the little kid part right. Maybe not necessarily the little girl, but definitely the little kid, right? Right, right, Metal.
If you say so.
I hope so, anyways. In his office, Shock Gibson hears the plea. Won't somebody please find my daddy? I can't resist that child. I'll find her, father. Shock makes his way to South America and immediately plunges into the jungle. Whew, it's hot here below the equator. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so if we take, okay, so we're under the impression here the book went on sale in December of 1939. Okay, so if if we take the idea that the stories were happening, quote unquote, in real time at the time,
Then it would be summer in the southern hemisphere.
right, as opposed to winter. So now, granted, he's just south. He's just below the equator, I think. But
Yeah, if he was just below, it would be just as hot, slightly above the equator as it is just below it too. If you're between the two tropics, there's really not going to be a difference, no matter what time of year.
mm-hmm. Yeah, he comes upon a scene of brutality. I'll teach you how to gather rubber. White master, white master, white master, have mercy. Stop flogging that man. I know how to handle natives. Then I know how to handle you. Ouch! Pedro, Leon, help me! We come, master. We kill. As the thugs approach, Shock lashes out with the great whip. Naughty boys should be whipped. Talking to them like they're children, right? Hey, Metal.
Yeah, there's like a certain ridiculousness to this situation, though. Right, the guy just shows up and he sees somebody strapped to a tree and almost being tortured by a guy. But, like, he doesn't know what's going on. For all he knows, the guy strapped to the tree could deserve to be strapped to a tree. Like he has no clue what's going on in the situation and just randomly takes a side.
You know what's kind of funny about your statement there? Rick and I have had a similar, and you probably remember when we were talking about it on one of the panel shows, right? Where we actually saw a very similar situation earlier on in one of the early stories of Zatara as well, where he was transported to another dimension, and he was just simply told, "We're the good guys, they're the bad guys, so please help us," without looking into it any further than that. So that just goes to show you the dynamics of the writing of the time, right?
Oh yeah, because like in actual police training, when they're fresh on a scene, they're told not to take like any information they had before the scene for granted. So it's like you show up and you see two people engaged. You don't know who's actually the perpetrator there, like the person who started it or who's at fault, and you have to like de-escalate the entire situation. You wouldn't just start attacking some random group of people because you don't know who's actually at fault here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, the lash twines around one native's arm and whirls him off the ground. Yo, help! The other native rushes at Shock with his deadly machete. I cut you to little pieces. Now, is that nice? Oh, boy. This will keep you quiet. Ugh. Meanwhile, the plantation owner has sneaked around behind Shock and drawn a knife. Shock creates an electrical field of force around his body, and the knife is shattered. A knife being shattered by electricity, you think that's possible?
Oh, let's say possible. Is it probable? No. Is it physically possible? If you had enough electricity, you could probably get enough energy in there to eventually shatter it. But being the fact that the knife is also metal, it's probably just going to conduct through the knife into whatever's holding it. I think the bigger thing is that guy would be screwed.
The guy who would be the guy who's using the knife?
Yeah, because like if the knife was suspended midair, yeah, you could put enough energy into the knife that it would eventually shatter. But because the electricity is something to flow through, it's just going to conduct through the knife into the guy.
And the guy would end up getting all shocked.
Yeah, as the electricity goes through him and tries to ground out to the floor beneath him.
Right. What happened? Now, sir, will you release that Indian? Wow, and again, just you see the times here, how the term Indian gets used for indigenous people, for natives or indigenous people, right? Even though that's South America, that's nowhere near India, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did at one point believe these were the West Indies, which is
Yeah,
where the name originally came from.
right. I will. And after this, treat the natives right. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Me bomb, me help white friend. That's fine. All right. Me bomby, me help white friend. That's fine, Bommy. I can use you. Now, Bommy, have you heard of a birdman falling in the jungle? Indians say birdman falls that way far off. Shock and Bommy, um, Bombi, set off through the dense jungle. We're going into a rough country, Bombi. Bombi not afraid. A little later, Bombi falls behind. Bombi see tracks of jaguar. He fails to see a boa constrictor um, come gliding up. Does that look like a boa constrictor to you, or more like a cobra or something like that?
Oh, it just looks like a generic snake, I guess.
I mean,
The
you can,
problem too
you
is,
can see the fangs right there, right?
yeah, and even a lot of like so, its head looks too big to be a boa constrictor. I think is the bigger problem, because constrictors tend to have narrow heads. There is another thing that wouldn't be native to that area that would have a larger head like that,
Mm-hmm.
which is the python. But what is native to that area that's big and constricts would be the anaconda, which would be somewhat bigger than that. It would have roughly the same body, but proportionately the head would be smaller.
Well, also, I was just thinking with boa constrictors, usually they're not known for having fangs that long because usually
No,
when
but
they go
pythons
after
are.
their prey, they wrap themselves around the prey and like squeeze them to death. They don't like bite them and put venom into them usually.
Yeah,
They usually will.
but the pythons do constrict, but they also have fangs, not for venomous reasons, but they have fangs. And I think this person just didn't know the difference between snakes, and they just drew a python here, thinking like, oh yeah, that's what a boa constrictor looks like.
Yeah, that's that like widespread. Not like today we might know the difference and somebody might properly draw it, but back then they probably didn't, as you mentioned. So the huge snake wraps his deadly coils around the Indian and begins to squeeze. Help! Bombi dying! But Shock has heard his cry. He leaps back along the trail. I'm coming, Bombi! I'm actually surprised Rick hasn't necessarily said it because I would have figured Rick would have also brought up the Zatara story when we were talking about that earlier.
Oh, Rick's probably busy doing something else, and he just has this on in the background.
Yeah. Um, with his terrific strength, Shock loosens the snake's coils and frees the Indian. Then, holding the boa by the tail, Shock treats the reptile as if it were a huge whip. Yeah, and we've seen that in a number of different like cartoons and comics, right?
Yeah,
right,
I don't
right.
think. Oh, I was right. Rick said that is correct, Metal. But yeah, I don't think a snake would be a very good whip, all things considered.
Not unless you were going, not unless you really were whipping it, like Devo, right? Whip it, da,
Yeah,
da, da, da.
maybe, but like that's the problem is that snakes are so dexterous. They have like control of their entire spinal column, which is basically their whole body. That it's like they'd be moving in mid whip. Even if you're like moving them around, they'd be contorting their own body. It'd be a very horrible thing to try to whip around.
Yeah, unless you just whipped them around so incredibly fast that they couldn't react. But
Yeah, the snake's probably already dead by then too.
yeah. Um. Anyways, I never saw a whip as big as this. I'm sure you haven't. Shock cracks the whip with the snake, breaking its neck. Ouch! That's the end of one snake. That's an interesting way of defeating a snake, isn't it? Just whip it around until you snap its neck.
Yeah, I mean that is a way that people take care of it though, right? So even though snakes do try to contort while
Mm-hmm.
people quote unquote whip them, one way that people handle snakes is they'll grab them by the tail end and they'll just kind of like slam them into the ground over and over until the snake stops moving.
Yeah. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, the drums of a fierce head hunting tribe boom out. And just remembered I forgot to do one other thing. If you want to talk to the chat for a moment, then I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment to take care of something real quick.
Oh, okay.
Be right back.
I'm trying to think what I would talk about other than how people kill snakes. Normally, people just don't try to kill snakes themselves. It's a very risky thing to pick up a snake, especially something that might constrict you. I guess if you have superpowers, you don't necessarily care. But typically, a stick is a good option for taking care of a snake because it puts a distance between you and the snake. Mongoose or ferrets, something that can fight the snake on its own terms. You just throw that at it instead, like a Pokemon battle. Way better than getting yourself involved. Definitely don't try stepping on a snake unless you're like really, really accurate and can get your boot on the snake's head in like one shot because then it's just going to wrap around your leg and you've got all kinds of other problems going on.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm back. So let's get back to the story then. Boom, boom, boom. The savages attack Shock and Bombi. Driven by a powerful savage bow, an arrow pierces Shock's helmet. Almost a bullseye that time. Shock pulls the arrow from the helmet. I can use this. With his powerful arm, Shock hurls the arrow right back at the shooter. I don't need a bow. Ugh! But during the fight, Shock steps into a small stream. In the stream is an electric eel. This strange creature gives off a powerful current. Oh boy. I don't think that's going to end too well for Shock, is it?
Maybe. I mean, his powers are electrical based, right?
Mm-hmm. The strange current of the eel draws away Shock's electric energy, leaving him temporarily powerless. Oh, I feel so weak. During Shock's weakness, the savages overwhelm him and Bombi. Um, help, Bombi! Wait, friend. I can't just now. Ugula sumi mimu kujolo blut. What's he saying, Bombi? Him say your head look fine, cut off. As the chief raises his machete for the blow, Shock feels his power return to him. As the machete descends, Shock creates an electric field of force around his body. I feel better now. And the machete flies to pieces. Upolugo. You like how I'm doing the native language there?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to do it. I have I don't know. I have a problem with all these metal weapons flying to pieces just from being conducting electricity.
Yeah. Well, we know comic science, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I just think this is a
like
horrible
okay,
weakness
or
to
I guess
have.
comic physics. We know about comic physics. I mean, you've heard of anime physics, right?
Those usually involve two mounds sitting on a woman's chest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, anime physics, but now we got comics physics, which it doesn't make any more sense than anime physics, right?
Yeah, I just want to say that this is a really bad weakness to have, since his powers are entirely electric based. Because it shouldn't even be just an eel that causes a problem. He should be trying to avoid stepping in water ever, like at all, because
Mm-hmm.
it seems like he can't be grounded out because he's always on the ground. But if he hops into anything that takes the current of electricity away from him, which is what the eel did, it's like, well, flowing water should do that to him anyway. He should just all the time just avoid being near water.
Yeah, well, it's probably part of it's out of just ignorance of just general scientific fact, but it's probably also just they're trying to make the story more dramatic, so they're trying to create these situations that they think will make him look like he's struggling or something like that. So then Shock bursts his bonds. He seizes the chief. You'll get no head this time. Ugh! And as the savages flee in terror, he hurls him at them. He hurls the chief at them. Shock and Bombi resume their journey. We come near place. Birdman fall. Well, it's about time. They come to a huge plateau. Plateau in the Amazon. That is a thing, right?
Yes, there's plenty.
There's plateaus in the Amazon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's actually some creatures that only live on certain plateaus because they'll actually there are trees and entire biomes up there, and there are creatures that only live in like a 20-mile radius, like that their species is only there.
All right, we have a couple. What's your favorite updock? I have no idea what an updock is. What you're even talking about there, Kim? And then
That's why I put a carrot. I just assumed he was talking about Bugs Bunny, right? If we take away the middle two words, he's just saying, "What's up, Doc?"
yeah. Let's see. Bounded by sheer cliffs, big rock, no can climb. I think we can, Bombi. Shock makes a rope by twisting some vines. Um, think this will hold you, Bobby or Bombi? Carrying the rope with him, Shock makes a terrific leap up the cliff. Look at that, being catapulted by electricity there, and lands on a narrow ledge far above the ground. He then lowers the rope for Bombi. Hang on tight, Bombi, and hauls the Indian up beside him. When at last Shock and Bombi reach the top of the plateau, they see an amazing landscape through which wander strange beasts. Wonder which strange beast we're going to be seeing here. You think we were given any clues earlier?
Oh, I can already see them there at the bottom. Look, there's dinosaurs in the river.
Yeah. I think that the one in the green area there looks kind of like a brontosaurus. I think.
I think they're all supposed to be the same thing. It's like a herd mingling.
Yeah, possible. Why those are prehistoric animals? This plateau must have been cut off millions of years ago. Animals have survived here that are extinct everywhere else. Yeah, I mean, I think that happens a lot in comics and in cartoons. If you think about it, because this is one of the first instances you see this, and I think some other examples I could think of course, the comic story from The Brave and the Bold, the I guess the War That Time Forgot series. They featured an island that had dinosaurs that seemed like they were like out of the time continuum, as it were. And there was and then on, of course, if you ever watched the G1 Transformers cartoons in the '80s, they had Dinobot Island, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
So you've seen this kind of thing before.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is it comes down to most people in general not understanding, especially at the time, why these creatures went extinct, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, no, being up on this plateau wouldn't stop them from going extinct because temperature changes, atmospheric changes, food source changes, and all that stuff. But again, very common specifically with the Amazon because we've seen so many things that only exist in very small areas and new species were popping up all the time when we discovered it. If you were going to see this anywhere, it would be a
Hmm.
place like this.
Yeah, and then of course, I just remembered another Land of the Lost. You know, Land of the Lost is another one that had kind of a hidden
Or it's like
area.
a journey to the center of the earth, right? When they go down and there's like a whole island of dinosaurs on their way down to the center of the earth.
Look, Bombi, there's a dinosaur. Once they roamed the whole earth. Look at Bombi's face right there. Bombi's like in a shock right. Well, over the past couple of pages there of panels. Look at Bombi's face. He's like in
Yeah,
utter shock and amazement.
I think he's like already done with this. Like he's like, I see giants, I'm gone.
And like, there's what looks like, I think that might be a Tyrannosaurus Rex right there. Maybe.
No, that's like a it's like a plesiosaur or something. No,
Yeah.
actually, that's more like an iguanodon. I think that's closer to an iguanodon.
And there is a pterodactyl, a huge flying lizard. It's the ancestor of our modern birds.
That's not even true.
I know that was something that was put out there for a long time there, that pterodactyls and pterodons were like the ancestor of birds. You know. I know
Yeah,
that
but
was a
it
thing.
turns out they're not even closely related. They're more akin to normal lizards, right? If anything would be closer, it's sauropods like the T Rex or raptors, right? Which is actually why we call modern birds raptors often. Like an eagle is a type of raptor.
Hmm. And, look out! Here comes a saber-toothed tiger.
Oh come on, those things didn't even exist at the same time.
Again, but yeah, but I'm sure that the writers at this point in time probably didn't know that. You know, that's probably a common thing taught more now in science classes
Yeah,
nowadays, or even when you were a kid, it was probably starting to gain momentum that they were at different times, but probably
yeah.
not in 1939.
Saber-toothed tigers. I mean, they were alive at the same time that humans were.
The terrible prehistoric saber-toothed tiger prepares to spring. Grrr! Shock, with his colossal strength, picks up a huge boulder. Quite an interesting adventure here, isn't it?
No, it sure is something.
And as the tiger charges, he hurls the rock at the savage beast. The boulder strikes the tiger full on the back and kills it. Wow. Like, I'm guessing that boulder crushed that saber-tooth tiger's spine, right?
I'm sure it would do that to almost anything. It's a
Mhm.
lot of weight in a boulder.
Right. I hate to kill animals, but it was his life or ours. Bombi no like tigers. As Shock contemplates the dead tiger, a huge flying lizard swoops down upon him. Look at that. And look at the dimension. Look at how big they make the flying lizard there compared to the other two characters there.
Yeah. There were some, not the pterodactyl specifically, but there were some pterodons, or not pterodons, pterosaurs that were around that size. That's not unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. The monster fastened its claws in Shock's back. Hey, what the? Taken completely by surprise, Shock is carried up into the air. Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. It's like the largest pterosaur I think to ever fly the sky is named after the I think it might be an Aztec or Mayan god Quetzalcoatl, and it's called the Quetzalcoatlodon, and it was roughly the size of a giraffe.
Hmm.
Thing was huge, giant head.
High above the earth, the monster carries Shock. I've got to do something about this. Recovering from his surprise, Shock turns and seizes the monster's neck. Oh, look at that right there. With his terrific strength, he wrings the neck of the monster. Ouch. Shock and the dead flying lizard fall toward the earth at dizzying speed. Good thing Shock is super strong and durable, because that's likely would kill anybody in that situation. That you break a big flying lizard's neck midair like that, you're all falling to the ground. You're both gonna end up dead,
Yeah,
right?
very likely.
Huh?
I said yeah, very likely. I mean, it also depends how long they've been falling, right? That would still probably damage or kill most people, but I think Chalk's probably already been through worse because that's still like less damage than getting hit by a train or something.
Mm-hmm. But Shock gets on top of the dead monster and stretches out its wings and to use. Oh boy. They definitely had some imagination, some of these writers, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
I just killed this flying lizard, so now I'm going to turn it into a glider.
yeah. So it's this big old fleshy kite.
That's some imagination. Now to make a happy landing. As Shock planes to Earth on the dead monster, a scene of terror meets his eyes. White man, help Bumby! Now Bombi's got a dinosaur chasing him.
Why is an herbivore chasing him? Maybe he just made it mad. I guess like you can make anything mad. Rhinos are herbivores, and you can make them mad.
Yeah. To aid Bombi, Shock glides right at the huge dinosaur and lands on the creature. Now to hang on. And look, he's shocking the dinosaur, I guess. There. The dinosaur bucks like a Western Bronco. Oh, there's something there. Look at that. A dino bronking.
Western Bronchosaurus.
But Shock digs his heels into the monster's sides and hangs on. Whoopee! Shock soon has the beast broken like a horse and submissive to his will. Whoa! He makes a bridle of vines for the creature. Shock thinking, or I'm sorry, Metal thinking about that. Does that kind of remind you of something that would come, say about, I don't know, 20, 22 years later after this, maybe?
I don't know what you're talking about. Not off the top of my head.
Oh, 1939, and then we go about 20, 22 years ahead. That's basically 1959, 1961. Do you remember what was coming out in the early 60s there, that where you might have seen dinos with bridles in them?
You have to remember you're talking to a sick man.
Hey, what?
I said you have to remember you're talking to a sick man.
Oh,
My
okay.
brain is not working at 100% efficiency right now.
Well, I was making reference to the Flintstones.
Oh, okay.
Remember how Fred would work the dino crane? Now, he had the bridle in it, right?
I just think it's ridiculous to think that you can tame an animal like that in one sitting, where it'll like actually listen to you.
Well, it's funny because they do that a lot in comics and cartoons. From what I know, I've seen it in G.I. Joe before as well. Come on up, Bombi. Let's ride.
Like, maybe it'd be more believable if his powers were involved somehow. Like, maybe if he was using like acute electric stimulus to calm the animal and sway him to his like, I'd believe that.
Well, theoretic. I mean, you look at the panels there.
Yeah, they're not explaining it though. Like, they need to explain
that's what he's doing. Maybe that's what he's doing.
Right? Maybe, but they're not really explaining it. It's easy to believe that he's not doing it either.
Right, because they don't really say anything about it. Maybe what they're trying to do there is they're trying to use the illustration to show you without much explanation. Maybe the idea is that they're hoping that people will assume what you just said, that maybe he's using powers to help maybe control or tame the monster.
Or maybe they don't know what they're doing, and they're just hoping that they can kind of like work their way through this event and hope nobody questions it.
And of course, we have to also remember too, because this is the historical comic retrospect. We're looking at it from a perspective of people who are years into the future from when this was originally written. Scientific theories have probably changed from then to now. What we know about science, what we know about, the earth and all that's probably changed from then to now. So, so when we're looking back on it, we're looking back on it from a point of view of, okay, things have since changed. Our understanding of certain things like physics and science and all that have changed from 1939 to now. Right?
Well, I mean, outside of there's some archaeological discoveries that have happened since then that are important. There's some physics discoveries, like particle physics and stuff, but honestly, most of what we've known that I'm complaining about has been around since like the 1800s. But the big difference, though, the thing that I'll concede is that research and indexing has changed a lot. They didn't have access to the internet back then. So, like, what does your average comic writer actually know? They'd have to spend countless hours in a research library to even know half of this stuff without the internet.
So, Sin Figuring here, a.k.a. Woody. Then, what's up? Well, we're going over, right now, at the moment, we're going over Speed Comics Volume 1, Issue number 5, and then we'll be at Champion Comics Volume 1, Issue 4, after we're done here. So, that's what's up. So, anyways, moving on to the next page here, as we had quite a good discussion going there on the previous page. So, Shock and Bombi ride off on the now tamed dinosaur. Look at the dino's face right there. They come to some strange dwellings. Those must be the caves of Stone Age cavemen. That line sounds a little redundant. I wonder if they have captured Colonel Ross. A group of cavemen approach. Look at how they drew the cavemen there. Wow. I don't think I'd want to meet those guys in a dark alley. Would you, Metal?
I don't think those guys exist in dark alleys. Does caveman society even have alleys?
Huh, interesting. Good point, maybe. Shock and Bombi dismount to meet the cavemen. Uh, good afternoon, gentlemen. They speak perfect English. Colonel Ross must have taught them. Did a birdman fall here? I have come for him. The birdman is here, but he is our teacher. He must not leave. The witch doctor says so. I heard the witch doctor. I told the witch doctor I was in love with you. I told the witch doctor I wasn't true. Ooh ee ooh You know where that's from? The witch doctor song.
I'm associate that with the chipmunks.
Right, Alvin and the
Yeah.
Chipmunks. Shock and Bombi are taken to Colonel Ross. Um, these cavemen have treated me well, but they won't let me go. I can do something. I can do something. Where's the witch doctor? The witch doctor, in his hideous mask, comes forward. I I am the witch doctor. My magic is great. The birdman cannot go. Now, why would you wonder why the witch doctor would want the bird, quote unquote, birdman to stay? I wonder.
The pilot from before? Well, I don't. I'm guessing it's because typically, like a witch doctor, it's a medicine man, right? Which is kind of like
Mhm.
the closest thing to a scientist that some societies had, right? He has wisdom and knowledge that everybody else doesn't have. And if this guy who comes from the sky, maybe he might think he is a descendant of a god or something to come from the side, whatever. But he clearly has knowledge and wisdom that their people don't have. So he would want it, right? That there's like a greed to that.
Yeah. If my magic is greater than your magic, may the birdman go. If your magic is if your magic is greater, the birdman may go. The cavemen gather to watch the trial by magic. Trial by magic. That sounds a now what? Now watch my magic. Suddenly, the witch doctor points his arm at four cavemen. The om padme hum dovo do. Isn't that fun to say? I mean, I know you can't do the voices or do much of that right now. I know you're not feeling well, but when you've done stuff like that before, isn't that fun to do some of that? Do some of that metal.
I mean, I typically usually have fun voice acting, regardless of the lines that are given to me. But yeah, sometimes it can be a little fun to go a little loose, a little haywire off in the left field.
Yeah, and the four men fall backward unconscious. That was great magic. Our witch doctor is great.
It's what we call the power of suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Real life illusionists and magicians do that all the time, where somebody basically just adheres to your will because they want to, even if they don't know. But like you could get somebody to fall down to the ground from just suggestion alone.
Mm-hmm. Now watch my magic. Shock seizes the huge tree with his powerful arms. Nothing up my sleeve. And with his terrific strength, he uproots it. Look at that. I don't need any magic words. That's greater magic.
That is ridiculously strong. Like,
Wait, I
uh,
haven't finished yet. Shock sends a powerful electric current from his body into the tree. Electricity sets the tree on fire. It blazes like a huge torch. Oh,
this actually might
you
be.
know that these cavemen have got to be starting to think, oh God, we don't want to piss this guy off.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
guy has the power to kill us.
But this might be the most believable thing he's ever done with his powers.
Cease your magic, oh great one. Put out the flames. I can do that too. Watch me. With his colossal strength, Shock tosses the blazing tree high into the air. The burning tree lands in a nearby river, and the flames are extinguished. Now may the Birdman go. Your magic is greater than mine. He may go. Giddy up! I'll be glad to get home. The three descend from the plateau on the rope of vines. Careful now, don't fall. So Bombi's going with him too. Wonder if he's going to take Bombi back to civilization.
Well, even if he doesn't, like he still needs to get off the plateau because he's not from the plateau originally. You don't want to leave him up with the cavemen.
All right, good point. A few days later, they come to an Indian village in the jungle. This Bombi's home. Bombi stay here. Good luck. All right, well, that answers that question, doesn't it? This Bombi's family. Gosh! Look at how many kids he's got there. He's quite a fertile man, isn't he?
No, Bombi's been very successful.
Yeah. He really did take, God's order to go off and multiply, didn't he? Weeks later in New York, a happy reunion takes place. Thank heaven you're home. I knew you weren't dead, Daddy. I owe my freedom to this man. Why, he's gone. Follow the adventures of Shock Gibson each month in the Speed Comic. So we'll just kind of blast through the rest of it. And if you want to make any comments on the art as well, here's your chance to be a human dynamo. Join the Shock Gibson volunteers. Yeah. Crash, Cork, and the Baron.
Yeah, but
We got
that
what looks
double
like another
feature.
jungle adventure going on.
Yeah, but that double feature was kind of about the length that we start getting used to single feature like floppies later on, whereas like it's only one story for a character.
Ted Parrish, the man of 1,000 faces. Here's Biff Bannon of the U.S. Marines. Smoke
Nelson
Smarter.
JR's here. How you doing?
Oh, somebody just came in?
He came in a little bit ago.
Oh, JR. Does Shock ever use his electrical powers to remove all the back hair from his wife? I don't think, first off, I don't think Shock has a wife, but, and hail Xenu Xena.
This is something people do though. They use what's the name? It's Electro something, Electro Dialysis, or I can't remember the name, but they'll use electricity to close off the pores after hair removal so that
Oh,
they try not to grow
electrolysis?
back. Yeah,
I think you're thinking of the word electrolysis.
That might be the word I'm thinking of.
Let's see. Smoke Carter, Death Races a Fire Chief. This is one featuring a fire. Landor, Maker of Monsters by Gregory Torrey. Texas Tyler by Harry Walters. No, not a descendant of mine as far as I know. Airspeed. And actually, I think we saw this very same one, in the last issue or one of the other. Spike Marlin.
I'll also be right back. I had soup in front of me, so I want to go put the bowl in the sink.
All right. Well, we're done with that one, so let's go ahead and get ready to move on to Champion Comics. So we'll read at least one, maybe two features from Champion. Think about how we do on time here. More press is what we're looking for. Carnahan. Champion Comics. And as far as I know, there was never issue one. So the first issue of Champion Comics was actually
I'm back.
all right. Was actually issue 2. So main character here is Champ, kind of more of a sports hero type of hero. So let's see, we're at 57 minutes. We're coming up on 1 hour. We might actually get into at least one of the feature. We might do 2 here. Oh, I do you want to do that just yet? Wanted to for full pages. Neptunia, Jungle Man, Liberty Lads, The Champ, among others. Oh, by the way, Metal, how did you like that story that we just read?
I mean, aside from the weird decisions of how to use electrical powers, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it more than the last time we had a Shaw Gibson story, because dealing with the dinosaurs and the weird oddities of the jungle was more fun than just the randomness of turning mobsters into terrorists.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that even Tim has said that kind of the whole like a lot of the mobster stories, which were huge at this time, of course, was a little redundant. So I'm glad we kind of got something in there that wasn't quite that. But there were a lot
Yeah,
of jungle type adventures too. I mean, here as
I
well.
like mobster stories. I just like when you're trying to deal with terrorism as a plot, like why do you need to use mobsters? I guess because mobsters do a lot of horrible things in general, but you could have some diversity there.
All right, so here's I guess a letter from the champ. I guess see if I can read. Let's see if I can make heads or tails of the cursive here. Hello, gang. I just can't begin to tell you how pleased I am with the way you boys and girls are writing to me. So many swell letters have come in that it will be a tough job to pick the best ones. You're a great help too. For the suggestions you make will go a long way towards making Champion Comics the one perfect magazine of its kind. So don't stop writing when the contest is over. Well, guess I'd better get busy checking up on this hurdle race. So so you I can't even make out that word. You will act. Will get your checks. I guess you writers or whatever. Um, will get your checks for Christmas
I
money.
think
Oh,
the
what?
winners,
Oh,
you winners will get your checks.
so your winners will get your checks for Christmas money. I'll put the names of the page, um,
No, this is prize winners.
the prize winners in the March issue of Champion. And of course, cover date March would be next month, which would come out in January, most likely. Um, be sure not to miss it. For now, so long, gang. The Champ. The Champ. After several thrilling encounters with desperate Oriental spies, the Champ finally gets back to police headquarters, where Detective Harrigan hands him the recovered cane of the late Dr. Marlin. Ah, the formula at last. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Harrigan. I'll just see that the formula is safe. Yes, this is it, all right. Uh, let's take a slant at the thing, kid. Do you mind? What's the matter, son? It's not the formula. Look, a picture of a yellow spider. That's all.
Oh, wasn't that the bad guy from the last one was the yellow spider?
Yeah, I think there's a continuing story. Hence why we're
Oh, so this is picking up exactly where you and I left off last time.
yeah. All right, so maybe I should have switched. Well, I think we still enjoyed the shotguns because I meant to, switch back and forth. I didn't even, but maybe I should have gone ahead and done some other stories in today. But oh well. Um, could that be Dr. Marlin's idea of a joke? No, no, it's something more serious. I'm afraid. The yellow spider seems to me that I've heard of such a thing. Meanwhile, in Chief Thompson's office, here, sir. This just arrived by messenger. Any answer? Bring that messenger here, officer. Look at this, Harrigan. Further, further subterfuge is useless. I must have the formula complete by midnight, or the champ dies. The yellow spider. The kid beat it as soon as I turned my back. He looked more like a dwarf, a yellow dwarf. He can't have gotten far after him. Gangway, I'll get him. A block away, a grotesque little figure secures or scurries toward the corner. The champ's sharp eyes have detected the tiny fugitive, and he dashes in pursuit. Well, what do you think of the story so far, there, Metal?
I think it's a pretty good start, considering like where we left off last time. Which all these stories, even if you're trying to do a continuation, you want to wrap up the plot per issue, right? So there's like a nice start and a nice end, but then you want to be able to have a nice start and a nice end, continuing each one. And at least it starts off pretty fast paced. Like by the end of the page, there's immediately action. We end up in a foot chase.
Yeah. Basically, you want to make sure the continuity is there, right?
Yeah, but you don't want it to suffer from continuity, right? Like you want each of your episodes to feel like a one-off issue. And starting off with a foot chase is a really good way to start off because it's like, okay, this is just like any other normal issue.
Okay. So the dwarf reaches a parked sedan, clutches a helping hand from within. The champ's long strides bring him to the car just as it darts away. champ is not to be lost so easily. He sprints after the fastest spring off. Now, mind you, just a little reminder for those who may not remember, the champ has been taking a special set of chemical vitamins, what have you, to where he seems to have he does seem to have enhanced strength, speed, brains, all that, right? So
Yeah, he's on the roids.
I wouldn't go that far, but anyways, the fleeing car is forced to a momentary stop, while the champ gains a bit of precious distance. Champ makes a flying tackle as the car surges forward. Desperately, the champ clings to the spare tire and, with a mighty effort, manages to pull himself abroad the racing vehicle. With a screaming of brakes, the car skids across the sidewalk into a hedge. The sedan crashes to a sudden stop, and two husky Orientals pile out and jump upon the champ, who has been thrown to the ground. And look at that, he's fighting him off.
That's
Come
a
on,
horrible.
you little. Oh, what was that?
I was, that's a horrible position to be in a fight normally. If you weren't like stronger than a normal person was, like you definitely don't want to be on the ground while other people are fighting you. I highly recommend not going to the ground if possible. But
Well, if you
hey,
have
if you're strong
multiple,
enough to toss
well,
two
if you
people,
have multiple people fighting you, because one on one, there are some people who actually did quite well. I don't know if you well now. I know it was still professional wrestling and all of that, but apparently it did have some significance. I don't know if you ever heard about the Muhammad Ali Antonio Inoki boxer versus wrestler match back in 1976.
well, you need to have ground game. Like you need to be able to fight on the ground, but especially if you have more than one attacker. But even if you don't, going to the ground is probably the last place you want. It's just an inevitability. Like a lot of fights just end up on the ground whether you want it to or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, continuing on. Yeah. The illusion I was making, of course, there was, you know, Ali and his people try to make a bunch of rules, to limit what Inoki could do grappling wise. So what he ended up doing, just sitting on the ground, just kept kicking at Ali's legs until like Ali's legs got all full up of blood clots, basically.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't blame him. If you had to fight against Ali, you wouldn't want to fight him in a punching match.
Yeah. Um, Actually, there were two boxer versus wrestler matches on that card. You know, the Ali Inoki match was supposed to be the headliner, but the one that really got people talking, one that people really happy with, was Andre the Giant versus Chuck Wepner. That was the one that really got people. Excited. Anyways, getting back to the story here. Come on, you little yellow devil. You're wanted at headquarters. And look at that. He flings him up over his shoulder like that. Well, here we are. Now to get down to business. There's the yellow spider's messenger, Chief. Make him talk. Good. Now spill it, you heathen monkey. Who sent you here? Just then, the chief's desk phone rings. Chief Thompson speaking. Who? Yes, of course. Call for you, champ. Some dame. Dame? Must be a mistake. Hello? Hello? Yes? What? Who are you? She hung up. What's up, kid? That was some stranger, a woman. She said that all the police in the country can't save me from the yellow spider. My time is up at midnight. Come on, we've got to do something. I'm going to the laboratory. Champ and Harrigan uh, dive into a taxi. A sleek foreign car follows the taxi. The taxi's motor sputters and stops without apparent reason. Sputter. What in the say? Can you beat that? The motor's dead as a herring. The mysterious foreign car draws alongside the stalled taxi and, if you value your lives, make not a single move. You to come with me. Other gentlemen remain as is, please. I'm okay. It's just what I want. Then I'm going to meet this spider person. You'll have a rendezvous with the master within the hour. So what? So what? Calls himself the yellow spider. So what? Calls himself the yellow spider? I suppose. Okay, bring him on. I have a score to settle with him. Not so fast, you my facetious friend. Only the master summons. Do we go to him? Keep that pop gun out of my ribs. I'm ticklish. The young man known as the champ will be received. Bring him to the spot. While the champ is speeding off in the foreign car with the Oriental gunman, Harrigan is having his own troubles. What sort of gag? What sort of gag is this? There's nothing wrong with that motor. You're coming along to headquarters with me, fella. Honest, boss. That motor stopped dead. It did. I didn't do nothing, boss. Honest, I didn't. Blame not the driver, officer. He is innocent. It was my theta ray that stopped the motor. I can stop any motor anywhere. Watch that bus. An interstate bus is rumbling. There's a question mark over the detective's head. An interstate bus is rumbling along the avenue. Suddenly, its motor sputters, then stops dead as Harrigan stares. Are you convinced, officer? You have just witnessed a sample of the power of the yellow spider. Beware.
That's a very interesting and specific ability for Ray to have to just turn off motors for a brief period of time.
Yeah, again, the writing of the time, right?
I'm not even complaining about it. It's just like, man, all the research and development that he must have spent on just creating a ray that specifically turns off motors on cars.
I tell you, Chief, it's true. They snatched the champ right from under my nose, and it was this yellow spider who talked to me on the radio. And go sleep it off, Harrigan. You sound like a fourth rate movie plot. See me in the morning when you feel better. Just then, the chief's phone gives a long, imperious ring. Uh, be not hard on the poor dumb sergeant, chief. All right. Actually, it comes. Be not hard on the poor dumb sergeant, chief, for he tells you truth. It is best for you to beware the yellow spider. Trace that call, Murphy. Trace that call. What call? What call are ye after meaning, sure? Sure, and there's been no call through the board for nearly an hour, sure? Question mark. Where's that half yellow messenger? Why Casey's holding him in the back room for questioning. Hey, Casey, bring in that imp. But there's no answer from Officer Casey. Harrigan crosses to the door and throws it open. Oh, ouch. That guy, I guess that imp got away. Right there,
Yeah,
Metal?
yeah, it looks like it. And judging by the words on the page, that is not raspberry jam.
Yeah. A gruesome sight meets his eyes. Officer Casey lies upon his face in a pool of blood. The dwarf has vanished. On one outstretched hand of the dead officer is pinned a scrap of paper bearing the insignia of the yellow spider. Oh. The car in which the champ is held captive speeds through the dusk and comes to a stop in a lonely country lane. You get out here. Don't uh, uh, don't care if I do, fellow. I need some fresh air. Champ and his captors walk out upon a small open field. Actually, if Metal, if you want to talk to the chat for a moment, I've got to take care of something here. I'll be right back.
I will do my best. Hello, chat. How are you doing? I hope you're enjoying the stories we're reading today. I think they're kind of cool. I've been having a good time myself. I find their technology a little questionable, less so in this story than the previous one, but I guess the only technology we were dealing in the previous one was specifically Gibson's superpowers. I've like sitting here thinking, like, this theta ray that turns off motors, how does it affect other things? Does it affect all motors and engines that run in a very specific, or it's like similar way? If I were to bring this theta ray to, like, I don't know, a power plant that uses coal or any other similar type of operation, would I be able to just shut the whole power plant down with the theta ray? This seems like this device has much better applications for a villain, especially acts of terrorism, than is being currently used in this issue. But, you know, limited minds and scope.
Mm-hmm. All right. Want to make sure you are finished before we continued on here.
No, I'm fine.
All right. Um, they stop, and one Oriental signals with a flashlight. There is a loud whirr overheard, and a strange metal cylinder drops out of the night. Please enter quickly. The champ, hoping to soon meet the yellow spider, complies. The door snaps shut. and he feels himself rising, rising, rising. An odorless gas inside the cylinder has put Champ to sleep, and he knows nothing of his arrival aboard a huge bullet ship high above the clouds. Odorless gas that puts people to sleep. What could that possibly be? Any thoughts?
Ugh. Chloroform in gas form would probably do it. You wouldn't be able to smell that. Just a few different things that could.
Yeah. The Champ's senses return to him, and he is surprised to find himself bound in a great carved chair facing a shimmering curtain. Bong! A gong! A gong sounds.
Actually, I just thought of the easiest way to have an odorless gas that would put somebody to sleep. You could just raise the O2 levels in a room like ridiculously high, like the amount of oxygen that somebody was breathing. And first, you would just get like really giddy, right? Like laughing gas, and you would get like a natural little high, and then you would just eventually pass out from the higher oxygen levels.
The room is darkened, and then the curtain commences to glow. A picture seems to form upon the radiant curtain. It is a huge yellow spider. So, of course, what they want us to try to believe that an actual big yellow spider is the big bad guy here.
Yeah, but I have a feeling this is a great and powerful Oz moment where we're not supposed to pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, that could very well be. Suddenly, and didn't the Wizard of Oz originally come out in 1939?
Movie wise, yeah, so it would be in
Yeah,
the
movie
public
wise,
eye. I don't remember when the books originally came out. They're definitely older than that.
yeah. But I was talking about the movie. Yeah. So anyway, suddenly the spider seems to speak. There's no time for further delay. Tell me at once, where is the formula of Dr. Marlin's that made you so strong? So you haven't got it. Well, I don't know where it is either. What do you want with the formula anyway? Oh, I'm disappointed. You do not lie. That chair in which you sit is in fact a lie detector. I see you speak truth, and that alters matters. You must be be air removed at once. With a superhuman effort, Champ snaps his bonds and leaps to the shimmering curtain and tears it down. Removed? Okay, I'll do the removing, Mr. Spider. Now, looking at that, who do you think the yellow spider could possibly be? Looking at that
Could it
last
turn out to
paragraph
have been
on
the
the left
dwarf the
there.
entire time?
Huh?
I said, could it have turned out to be the dwarf he was chasing the entire time?
That's a possibility, isn't it?
I mean, that guy's pretty small in that chair.
Well, yes, it is. Look at that. Yes, it is, Metal. So it's you dirty little insect. Spider, is it? Suits you well. Now, you're going to answer questions. But before the champ can touch the dwarf, he is set upon by a gang of angry Orientals. Come on, come on, yellow devils. This is what I need. Exercise. Well, that's that. Say, where did that little imp go? Well, what do you know? about that? I'm up in an airship. Guess I'd better put one of these on before I go out on that catwalk. You can't get away from me. Champ spots the dwarf making for the forward gondola. He gets chased. Right? Probably should have read that part first, but oh well. Gaining the platform, the dwarf pulls a lever. The catwalk falls, pitching Champ through space, and then we see him open the parachute. For further adventures of the Champ as he searches for the lost formula and battles the Yellow Spider, read next month's Champion Comics. Right, Metal. So what did you think of that story?
I thought it was pretty fun.
Let's see, where are we at on time here? We're at hour 26. So yeah, I think we have time for at least one more story. When I was previewing this earlier. Actually, before I do that, though, of course, I do need to step away from the computer one more time. I'll be right back if you want to talk to the chat.
Sure.
Okay. Metal, while I'm gone, I'll be right back.
Yeah. I think it was a fun story. I think it was overall pretty predictable, but I don't even think that is a fault of the story. Sometimes I don't want a story to just be like throwing out subversion for no reason. Like, you could probably have guessed that the dwarf was a spider the whole time, and that's cool. I like stories that go where I want them to go sometimes, like where I expect them to go. There's a satisfaction to that. Like, you're actually actively participating with the story, and it's not just something happening to you. So that's cool. I also like airships, so anytime you involve, like, zeppelins and blimps and stuff like that, I'm down for that. I love airships, so I think overall it was pretty good. I think it was a pretty good continuation of the one we read last time too. It's a nice little coincidence that the schedule lined up that we got to read a follow-up to a story that I was a part of before. Oh. Ay. I guess though it's just gonna keep continuing though. I wonder if every single I guess episode, not really issues since it's part of a larger comic that has other stories in it. But if each episode of it is gonna end like that, where it's just like he keeps coming closer and then he just ends up parachuting away or something similar, where it's like, okay, got to start from scratch to continue to the next one. But that's kind of necessary too, because I think I said earlier, you want continuity, but you don't want to suffer from the continuity either, because it's really hard sometimes for people to just pick up a story and jump into it if it's just like in the middle of a story and you have no idea what happened before that. So you almost want to write each of the stories like they're these one-off adventures, even if there is continuity, so somebody can pick it up, kind of get a gist of what's going on at the beginning, and enjoy just the little feature as you're going through. You don't want to punish somebody for coming in halfway through a story, especially in a magazine like this, right? Because all the stories could end up being like that, and you want that principle of you could just open up this book, and you'd be able to enjoy every single one of the stories if it's your first time picking it up.
All right, so now I'm back. Let's see here. Queer Championships. Let's see. Cloudbuster Hen Langer made 36 consecutive airplane trips and never came down with the plane. He used a parachute for each descent. Queer Championships, huh? In this case, we know meaning weird championships. Tom Morris swam 1.5 miles with both hands and feet tied. That's interesting. I'm moving around more like a fish there. towing a boat containing 6 passengers. Australia, November 1933. Let's see. No date on the one Cloudbuster hint. Let's see. Dale Peters scored 230 points in a 12-game season. Davis Elkin, 1930. Let's see. Henry Blackburn, the man who taught Joe Louis how to hit, fought 68 ring battles, of which 47 were draws. Lord Walsingham shot 105 bee grouse, or 1,058 grouse in 14 hours and 18 minutes. England, 1888. There's some interesting little tidbits there. And of course, with these magazines, you saw these kind of featurettes too.
Yeah, I think those were all real, right? Like they were talking about real feats because I was in disbelief. I had to look up this Tom Morris guy, but then I found out that he's actually an Australian swimming champion from back in that day with a lot of notable feats and stuff. I'm like, I think they were just depicting like real things that happened at that around that time.
Yeah, well, that's what these featurettes would do. I mean, there were a number of featurettes like that. Queer Champions was just one of them. They did have some Ripley Believe It or Not segments in some of the comics. I know there are also times when they would have little featurettes on baseball players as well. Yaki Gold. Here's one of the other here's probably one of the other features I wanted to kind of grab my attention here a little bit. This will probably be the last feature. We're at hour 32, so this will probably be the last feature, and then we'll start to wrap things up here. Penny Wright, feature writer. Penny has been rushed from Central America to Paris on an assignment from her editor to get a story on espionage in the French capital. The cablegram gives her a tip to look up a certain Nina, a palm reader who is under suspicion for spying activities. Now to find out where this palm reader hangs out. Suddenly, in a quiet side street, Penny is overpowered by 3 strange thugs. Knocked senseless, she is loaded into a waiting car. When Penny comes to, she finds herself in a bare room surrounded by sinister characters. Well, Miss Wright, already you've met Nina, the palmist, but your visit will be short, very short. Oh, I'm sorry. Oops. Let me try that again. Well, Miss Wright, already you've met Nina, the palmist, but your visit will be short, very short. I didn't even realize at first that was a girl talking. So, we read that cable long before you got it. You will quietly disappear. Nina will be safe. Left alone, Penny wriggles until her compact falls out. With her feet, she breaks the mirror and manages to cut her bonds. So look at that. So with a small mirror, she breaks a mirror open to crack the glass give her a sharp object to cut her bonds with. You think how believable or plausible is that?
I mean, it's a lot more plausible than a lot of the other stuff we've seen here. I mean, broken glass is very, very sharp. The problem is like how tiny a compact glass would be, right? Like, so being able to maneuver it into the position that it could actually cut the rope is the less believable part. But this is a very practical situation to be in compared to most of the things we've seen today. Like, I don't really have too much of a problem believing this.
Yeah. I hope these stairs lead to the street. I've got to get out of here. Instead, Penny finds herself behind the curtains of Nina's seance room. Tell me what is in store, madam. Answer my questions, and I shall tell you what the future holds. One of Nina's henchmen, discovering Penny's escape, rushes downstairs to report. Penny is again taken prisoner.
This is like a Princess Peach situation. The second she gets out, she just gets captured again.
In the dead of night, Penny is carried from the house and dragged into the vast catacombs beneath the city where dregs of the underworld are in hiding. Do away with her and leave no traces. I'll pay you when it's over. Penny desperately plays for time. Would you fellows like some American cigarettes? I can't get away, so untie me, and I'll have one too. Isn't that something? A woman offers to have a cigarette with the boys, right?
Yeah. That looks painful.
What was that?
Oh, what we're about to get to, that looks painful.
You finish that cigarette? Now your time has come. We want to collect our pay. Oh, yeah? Yow! Here's something on account. Don't let her get away. Later. Sure, we took care of her. Right after you left, not a sign left of the gal. But Penny has eluded her pursuers and is stumbling waist deep through the sewers.
That's the last place a pretty lady wants to be.
What was that?
So that's the last place a pretty lady wants to be.
Trudge into a sewer?
Oh, and high heels nonetheless, right? Like, yeah, you can get caught on anything in there. And your balance, are like, that's got to be awful.
Yeah. Penny finally makes her way from the murky underground maze and finds it is already dawn. Gee, it's good to be out in the air again. Now I've got to get right back to my hotel. But sinister eyes still follow her with vengeful intentions. The doorman rushes to confer with Nina. They swore she was done so I paid them off. And now, fool, you now do the job yourself and don't fail. I've got to get this off while it's red hot. The whole story of how Nina mesmerizes those soldiers and prized information from them, which she sends to the enemy.
I mean, you could have at least changed your clothes first. You just came out of a sewer.
Who's that? Not a whisper out of you, or you got away twice, but this time you'll never live to send that story. Holding Penny with one powerful arm, the spy yanks the paper from Penny's typewriter. But Penny, using a jujitsu trick, suddenly hurls the man to the floor. This will keep you quiet, mister, even if I ruin my typewriter. Ouch. What's going on here? Who are you? I'm Penny Wright, American correspondent. This is a spy who tried to stop a story I was writing. He's an aide of Nina, the palmist, who controls a network of spies here. Yes, I know of you, Miss Wright. I'll send a squad with you to nab this Nina right away. Well, Nina, your game is over. But better read your own palm. Now your future looks bad. Here's a lot of information she was collecting. Miss Wright, you American girls certainly have spunk and brains. We are much indebted to you. Go get your story written, and I'll help you get it by the censors. Hours later, as Penny finishes typing her dispatch, um, a knock at the door foretells a new adventure awaiting her. An urgent cablegram from New York, Miss Wright. What lies ahead for Penny in the startling events which surround her? See how she vanquishes the owl, king of international spies, and changes the course of history. Read next month's thrilling episode in Champion Comics. So what did you think of that story there, Metal?
You notice that it's only ever the women in these stories that know judo or anything, like any jujitsu type move. Because, like, that thing that she just tried to pull on that guy would not have worked if he knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
But like the henchmen are always clueless to even like the basics of grappling, so women can just like toss men right over their shoulders and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you think about it, women have to know if you think about it, women would have to know jujitsu when they're in these situations because you know that you know it's a scientific fact. At least on based on strength, on raw musculature.
Oh no, I know that, right? But that's my complaint, right? Because even in that case, it only works when the woman knows it and the man doesn't, right? Because if the man also knows it, then those techniques don't really work as well because there's a lot of counters to it in the same systems.
Uh-huh.
So like it only ever works because the woman knows it and the men don't. You're like, why don't the thugs of these, like, especially if they're supposed to be spies, why do these international spies don't know even like the most basics of any form of martial arts?
Well, I think the only ones who would be like the Asians because you know a Japanese or Korean, Japanese, Korean, Chinese spies would probably know some form of martial art, you know, because of course they're, it's part of their culture. But you're talking about so you're talking about European spies, and there aren't a whole lot of European-based martial arts. The only one I can
There are
think,
a lot more than you think.
well, yeah, but the only one I know of, the only European martial art that I know of is savate, which is a kicking style martial art that the French do.
No, there's a lot of them actually. Almost every European culture has some form of wrestling art to their culture too.
Yeah,
Including
well,
like my people, the Irish, we had a form of
Greco-Roman.
jacket wrestling.
Yeah, there's a Greco-Roman style in the Mediterranean, and then freestyle type wrestling, and then here's Neptuna, Queen of the Deep.
Yeah, well, that's the popular stuff, right? But almost every culture has it, right? The Scandinavians had wrestling, the Polish people, Hungarian people had wrestling, Celtic people had wrestling. Like there was all over the place. There are different forms of wrestling in Europe.
Yeah, Adventures of Bill Handy. Just going over. So, what do you think of the stories we went over tonight overall?
Yeah, I think they were fun.
And what about the art here?
Some of the art I could take or leave. Like I know a lot of it is a product at the time. I don't have necessarily a problem with the illustration. It's just obviously coloring was very limited because of limitations of printing at the time. Like you had to be very choosy with your colors, and sometimes colors were there for emotion, but also sometimes colors were there for readability, where you pick something that's like very dynamically different than it should be, just so you can read the stuff around it. Because if the whole page was red, you wouldn't be able to read the page at all.
All right. So, as I said, that was the last feature. I was just going through the rest of it there. So, all right. So we're at an hour 48 now. So a good time to start winding down. But of course, before we get to that, I see there have been some comments in the chat here. So we'll look at those. All those Lois Lane copies. It is a wonder DC didn't sue over them. I guess he's referring to Penny Wright right there.
Yeah, I don't think they'd have a case.
Well, because you had a lot of female reporters, and no reading tonight, Metal. And Metal, you want to read your own comment here?
Yeah, I answered that. I'm just not feeling too well. When we were even talking about this on Sunday, I was feeling good back then, but I figured it was going to hit me because there was a bug going around the house, and right around the time I thought it hit me. Even on the show I have to run on Wednesday, I was already starting to feel terrible.
Yeah. And then Rick kind of replied, "Got love. She just scrolled through the sewer on dress. Looks no worse for wear."
That's what I was saying. Like she just started typing her paper right away. She came out of a sewer. She could at least taken time to change. She was still in that soaky, mucky dress when she was typing up when that spy attacked her.
Yeah, you would think that maybe she would at least wanted to take us out. But then also, even though we didn't have the Comics Code Authority or anything like that, I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure maybe what they didn't want to happen. Maybe it didn't even cross their mind that maybe one of the reasons they didn't have her shower because they didn't want the spy coming in on her in the shower and her being in a state of undress.
Yeah, but it's a comic, so any excuse. We could have flashed forward. Maybe the spy came in a little later, right? Like she didn't have to attack right away. He could have caught up with her half an hour later, for all we knew, right? Like it didn't have to go down exactly like that. She could have changed.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, today is Friday, September the 22nd. 2023. So why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history? History! So, 2003, 1948, and then 2013. Okay, so first off, we're going to wish a happy 75th birthday to Canadian actor Jim Burns. Now, in the realm of animation, Jim Burns, of course, provided the voice of Dr. Light in Mega Man, Merlin and King Arthur in the Knights of Justice, Nick Fury X-Men Evolution. I also know, because I'm watching it right now, provided the voice of Mr. Brink in RoboCop Alpha Commando. But probably the one thing he is most famous for, Jim Burns is most famous for, is portraying Joe Dawson in the Highlander series of the early 90s, opposite Adrian Paul. So happy
I
go ahead.
believe you when you say that's the thing he's most known for, but I've never seen Highlander, so I probably know him as Dr. Light.
Yeah. Well, a lot of, because if you remember Adrian Paul's Highlander series, it ran for 5 seasons. It was a pretty good series. I'm sure a lot of people watched it. It's probably
I'm sure they did. I've just never seen it.
Yeah. And I know he's lent his voice to a number of different characters that have, come, that has been done by Vancouver-based Ocean Studios. Dr. Light from Mega Man, Merlin from King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, Nick Fury from X-Men Evolution. He has a pretty distinct voice, so if you've heard him enough, you'll know. And as I said, Mr. Brink from RoboCop Alpha Commando as well. So happy 75th birthday to Jim Burns. Moving ahead in time here to moving ahead in time here to 1999. In 1999 here. On this date in 1999, the first issue of Batman Beyond from DC went on sale on newsstand. Of course, this was a comic based on the Batman Beyond animated series that was happening around the same time. Came out around the same time there. Grounded was the name of the story, written by Hilary J. Bader, penciled by Craig Rousseau, inked by Rob Lee. Timothy Herkins did the lettering. Lee Lowridge did the coloring. So on this date, 24 years ago, 1999.
Yeah, you can even see the Kids WB logo in the top corner of the cover.
The first issue of Batman Beyond went on sale on this date 24 years ago today. So moving on to...
I liked Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond, yeah. Moving on to the next piece of niche history here. Moving ahead to 2003. On the night after, I believe it was the night after, I think it was Vengeance this year or Unforgiven, one of the two pay-per-views there. WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the MCI Center in Washington, D.C. In the main event, Goldberg retained the World Heavyweight Championship over Chris Jericho. Also on the card, Evolution, the faction known as Evolution of Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Triple H defeated Garrison Cade, Mark Jindrak, and Maven. Mark Henry defeated Tommy Dreamer in a White Boy Challenge at 55 seconds. And the show opened with Rob Van Dam defeating Christian via DQ in a match that was for the WWE Intercontinental Championship. So 20 years ago today, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event from the MCI Center. And finally, 10 years ago today, on this date, 10 years ago today, the Doga Kobo anime, Devils and Realist, would complete its run in Japan on Japanese television on this date back in 2013. So 10 years ago today, the Dogo Kobo anime, Devils and Realist, would complete its run on Japanese television on this date 10 years ago today. So I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Metal, if you can stick around for a couple minutes afterwards for just some post-show stuff. I know you're sick. You probably want to get to bed so you can rest a little bit, and I'll get you to bed.
Oh, I wish. I still have to walk the dog after this.
Okay. If you don't mind sticking around for a couple minutes for just some post-show stuff,
Oh yeah, I also want to remind everybody watching up to this point that they should go and pick up a copy of Realms and Relics #1 on Indie Planet.
Yeah, if you want to share your link again on that.
I did. It's just taking a second to catch up.
What was that? Oh, okay.
I said I shared the link again. It was just taking a second to catch up.
All right, there it is. So if you guys want to go check that out as well, there it is. And hopefully, Rick will be back on Sunday, and Metal, you'll be able to join us as well.
Yeah,
it's
only $3.50. It's not expensive.
What was that?
I said it's only $3.50 before shipping. That's not expensive for 48 pages.
That harkens back to what, 15, 20 years ago at least. What comics were like 10, 15
yeah.
years, So, anyway, so with that, guys, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope everybody enjoyed the material we went over. We'll, of course, be back here on Sunday for our panel show, the weekend edition, with our panelists and talking all things niche. Next Friday, RJ Carter will be my co-host, and we will be looking back to, continuing our look back to December 1939, focusing in on Centaur Comics. Have RJ for the next couple of weeks on the next Friday, the 29th and 6th as well. Coming up on the 6th, we'll be getting into Fawcett Comics. We'll be getting into Wiz Comics #1. Talking about, or #2, depending on how you read the indicia. In a couple weeks here, we'll be looking at Billy Batson's first published appearance in Fawcett Comics, as well as Ibis the Invincible and Spy Smasher. Next week, of course, we'll be focusing in on Centaur Comics, Amazing Man, and Amazing Man Comics among those. So have RJ Carter with me from Critical Blast for the next couple of weeks after this. And I hope everybody, again, enjoyed the show. And we will be back here on Sunday. Bye.